Well, good morning and welcome to Buddha's in Your Landfill or Your Moment of Zen. I see it's 9 o'clock, about my father's timepiece, and hope you had a great St. Patrick's Day. I had a really interesting talk last night about Irish Spring, so at the Martini time, so I hope you maybe go back and pick that up. So I wanted to pick up this morning where we left off yesterday as we continue to pull this Ariadne's thread that leads us out of the labyrinth of our mind and this very confusing world that we live in. So I started off, yesterday we ended up with the idea of where we talk about Dharma truth as being different from objective scientific truth. Dharma truth is revealed truth, discovered truth, personally discovered. Aha! And this is the whole point of Zen Buddhism, Satori, Kensha, awakening, a shift in perspective, a shift in the paradigm, a grasp of the totality, and not just learning something that some objective knowledge that has been passed on to you. So Dharma truth is not revealed to you by somebody else, by God or by a scientist or whatever. It's discovered, it's stumbled upon. It's the Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole. You fall into it. You trip on something insignificant and discover a whole new world. So it's a discovery that comes, Dharma truth comes as a whole, not as pieces, but as a whole, a seeing of the totality at once. And not the totality of the cosmos or anything like that. I'm just saying the totality of your present moment, of your present life, of which in our everyday world we see fragmented, we see broken up into time, like a cup thrown on the floor. We're always putting the pieces together, but when all the pieces come together, it's like in a mystery, particularly the British mysteries, where the detective, this is with Midsummer's mysteries all the time, there is the pieces of the puzzle and the detective inspector struggles to put it together. And then towards the end of the movie, he's collected all the dots and the clues, and suddenly somebody says something insignificant, his wife says something, or he sees something in the newspaper, some insignificant little trigger, and he goes running out of the house. He knows who did it, you see. So there is this, like a tipping point where you collect the dots, the tension of the mystery. I don't want to know, what is that name? I know it's, I just on the tip of my tongue, I can't see it, what is it? At some point there is a tipping point where the least little thing will trip the gestalt, will trip the Satori, will trip the Dharma. And I see. And now you're relieved of the tension of the fragmented world. So let's look into this a little more. This morning, so that's where we left off yesterday, trying to get an understanding of the difference between Dharma truth and everyday truth that we feel, that we think is the only truth. So this morning's haiku from Basso that I opened up and wrote on is kind of like was a tripped me into Avatar. So let's see if we can connect this haiku with Avatar, and then begin our continue our discovery with Avatar. But anyway, the haiku this morning was, wet with morning dew and splashed with mud, the melon looks especially cool. Wet with morning dew and splashed with mud, the melon looks especially cool. And I was reading this, and we all go in the garden and see melons and things. We all look at nature, but we look at nature through the eyes of the sky people in Avatar. Now I I really want to go into Avatar over the next 3 or 4 days. This is one of the most, one of my greatest movies. I couldn't believe it when Hurt Locker won Best Picture. But I watched Avatar maybe 3, 4 times. I even wrote down the audio script, which is very revealing when you do that, because the script is what you read, and it tells you, it's like a wisdom script of the movie, you know, that gives you a different perspective when you just look at the read what the script is. But anyway, we'll go into Avatar more. But I wanted to. I even have a page called Avatar and the Voyage to Pandora, which after the movie came out, I think I wrote on that for about a year. But I don't write on it much anymore. But there's a lot there on my meditations on Avatar. So we're getting back to this little haiku before we take a leap from there into Avatar. And if we look at this, there is a shift. There is a shift in the haiku of perspective. And that's what Zen is all about. And that's what these Zen haikus are all about. And the Zen koans. They're about triggering or activating a shift in viewpoint. Not in the knowledge, not in the understand, but a shift in viewpoint. A shift in the way you see something. And that shift creates a satori or a Dharma truth. Aha, I see. And we all experience this in everyday world, but you look at something from the other side and suddenly you see a way through the problem. So let's getting back to this haiku. I could say now, if I were just describing this particular scene objectively, I'd say the melon was wet with dew and it had mud on it, and it was splotched with mud. The melon, now that's an objective view. I'm looking at this melon, and there it is. It's a thing. This melon had dew on it and had mud on it. But the poet shifts the perspective, and then he says, well, he doesn't say the melon was wet with dew. He said wet with morning dew and splotched with mud. The melon looks especially cool. Now, cool is not an adjective that describes a thing like wet. Cool is a feeling. So now the melon has feeling. So the melon feels cool with this dew on it and the mud, you see. So suddenly the melon is alive. The melon has feelings. The melon is sensitive. The melon is me. See how the perspective shifts from me being objective, looking at the thing, oh, I'll eat that melon, or the melon feels cool, like I would feel cool if I had dew on me, you see. You see what the shift is? So from the poets, walking through the world with this poet, suddenly shifts everything so that the world is alive. The world has feeling. The world is sensitive like me, you see. So I and the world are one. So this is a shift from duality of me versus the world as objects to a shift where the world is me, I am the world, and the world is me. A shift in unity. So the boundary between me as a subject and the world as an object shifts so that the world is also, it's an object, but it's also subjective. So there is a shifting of the subjective, me, and the objective, so that so I'm seeing the world as if I were the object. You see that? So let's take a look now. Let's go from that to Avatar. And I think, oh my God, everybody must have seen Avatar. But the basic thing I want to talk about today is the two worldviews of the Sky People, SP, and the Navi. Okay, so we all recognize the sky people view, which came to Pandora to get some unobtainium, which is stuff they needed. And the people, the avatar, the Navi, stood in the way, and the home tree was just a tree. Plenty of trees there. I'll cut this down because that's where the gold is, you see. So this was an objective worldview. But then our hero, Jake Sully, by the way, is a classic reluctant hero. He stumbled into this. I mean, he didn't want to go there. He was just fate opened up the door for him to make this journey. So he made this journey, and we could start, and then he was discovered the Pandora world. You see, he was kind of like a he was very he was able to go into the Pandora world with the sky people mind, with his sky person mind, and gradually he began to his perspective began to shift. You see, so there was a shifting of his perspective, just like there was a shift in the haiku. So instead of the world being objects, dead objects, with an I and an it, you see, the world became thou. In other words, there was a feeling, bonding, unity with the world in the Pandora view. However, it was there. You could almost say there was a division between the sky people perspective was all mind, language, I with a me in it, and everything is an it. So this is mind. And the Pandora people, you could say, were body people. They were awakened to body wisdom, which was very evident when Jake was taught how to jump out of trees, trust his body. In other words, he had to learn how to trust his body, you see, and not trust the mind. So there was a surrender of the mind to the body. And you just do a Nike commercial. You just do it and let the body know what to do. See, this is a total shift in perspective, you see. And one of my favorite moments was when Jake Sully, because he was also the wounded hero, and he was the Fisher King of the Arthurian romances, in the sense he had a wound that wouldn't heal, which was his bad leg, the paralyzed legs, you see. So he had a wound that he couldn't heal. And that's why he went to Avatar, to heal his wound. But he discovered that there was a different wound that it was going to be healed, you see. So anyway, one of the moments that I most love was when he first awakened in his Navi body. And he began to feel his legs, and he began to run, and he began to joyously leap, and he just couldn't be contained. He was free in this new body. And that was such a great awakening. It reminded me of several things. When I remember when I described my sinkhole event in 1968, when I suddenly awakened one morning, and it was like that. It was suddenly being awake in a new world, in a new body. It was like being awake in the Garden of Eden, where there was no boundaries now, or no separation of me from the world, you see. So there's that sense of he awakened to this unity with his body and with the world, you see. And the contrast was so great because a moment before he was in a wounded body. He was in a divided mind that was separate from the world. Everything was in it. He was in this personality called Jake Sully, which was held in place by his world. Our personalities are held in place by this culture we live in. You see, it's like placements. It's hold us there. So it's very difficult to break out of this perspective because the world that we live in holds us in place, you see. So anyway, that moment was very powerful for me. It's also one that many people experience when you have cataracts removed. Your vision gradually grays and clouds, but it's so slow. It's kind of like a frog being boiled in a pot. He never knows quite when he's boiled, because it's so gradual. So the cataracts grow, and it's so gradual that you don't know how much you're missing. And then suddenly, and I've had them taken off, then they're taken off, and then when the gauze is removed, it's like HD TV. I can't believe how brilliant and beautiful everything is, you see. But then in time, that becomes your everyday kitchen, your everyday view. But it's that contrast, that sudden snap from one view to the other that is so wondrous and miraculous, you see. And it reminds me of the new kitchen. We had a couple of years ago, we had a new kitchen. So you have the old kitchen, and then you have the new kitchen. And it's just, you want to show it to everybody. Oh, it's so beautiful. But then in time, it becomes your everyday kitchen. And it's, the glow and the wonder is because of the sharp contrast with the old. When the veil is removed, it's open, you see. But then in time, the becomes the way things are. Anyway, let's move on to this. What we're looking at today is the two different views. You could also say that the Sky People view was the male paradigm, and the Pandora view was the female paradigm. So you have these kind of like female being associated with the body and inclusive, and male being associated with the mind and selective, future goal-orientated. The female body-mind will be associated with process rather than goal. Look the difference between the way we shop. I know when I go to the when I go get something, I have a target. I'm going to get something, I go there and get it, and I come out. It's like hunting. I go shoot something and I bring it out. The wife goes and we usually sit in the car and wait, and she's in a process, it's meeting people, and there's the process of shopping, so the getting the thing is secondary, really. It's the process. My wife and her sister will go to, sister will go to art or craft shows, or not craft shows, but when we go to New Bern, they'll go into these gift shops or these shops with crafts. They can spend all day in there picking up and imagining what they would do with this, and then putting it back down, and just, wouldn't this look good with such and such, and we could do that, and then put that down. So it's going on these little journeys of process, and oh God, I can't stand. Buy something and get out. So this is just the difference, you see, between the two that we can see. But so we're looking basically at the Sky People as an I-it world, which is the dominant world we live in the West. Everything's an it. In the I is in me, and I can't find that, you see. So I really doesn't exist in an it world because I'm an it too. I can look at myself, you see, as an it, and then that's a self-image. That's like in Mad Men, the self-image man. And then I wonder if my image is okay. So I'm constantly taking selfies, you see, or checking my hair, checking my image, you see. Are my clothes okay? And my, this image. So we become its too. So we're all a bunch of its. You're an it, I'm an it, and we're a bunch of its talking to each other. This is the Sky People world. And so the Pandora world is what's called I thou. When Jay Sully gets on his dragon or his horse, he doesn't control the horse. He bonds with the horse, so that the horse and his dragon, so they are one, bonded, and if he wants to go this way, the dragon goes that way. So he and the dragon are one. We have this, when we get our motorcycles or our machines or something, we like to have that feeling of bonding with the machine, so it is perfectly in tuned to what we want. This is why Apple, Steve Jobs, created Apple's, his products were bonding products. They were intuitive to your needs, you see. So you could say that the PC were Sky people and Mac was Pandora people. You're bonding with the computer rather than having to tell it what to do. The computer seemed to know what you wanted to do. It's called intuitive, you see. So we're looking at two different ways here, and these two different ways are everywhere in our world, but we just, for me, we don't have the overall view of how these are really perspectives or paradigms or way of looking at the world, you see. Looking at the world as a bunch of it's that I have to conquer and manipulate for my benefit, you see, or looking at the world intuitively as one and flowing with the world, and like water, like Taoism, like flowing with the world as water instead of going at the world like a bulldozer. It's two different perspectives, and we see it everywhere. We all know bulldozer people, and we all know water people. And we usually associate this with the male and female principle. Now, again, I'm not looking at in a judgmental or what's right or wrong. We're not looking at right or wrong. We're just trying to understand the different perspectives, because both are valuable, both are needed, but one without the other has limitations. So the Pandora people did not have the in other words, body without the mind has no wisdom. Mind without the body has no compassion. And you need both of these wings, compassion and wisdom. And if you only have one, you're going to fly in a circle. You see, you're going to fly. So wisdom and compassion have to be the two wings of the body. So what we're moving towards here is an idea of individuation. This is a Carl Jung idea, individuation, where the consciousness evolves to become whole. So we're looking here at the evolution of our own consciousness from either leaning to one side or the other. And the satori of consciousness, the aha, the awakening of consciousness is the awakening to the whole self that is both body and mind working together. When body and mind work together, we look like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, or the Marx Brothers. I was just writing about these recently. Or we say somebody's in the zone, or they're in sync. They're an artist. We're looking at them and we're just awestruck by their perfection, because they are manifesting this individuation of mind and body being one. So we're looking at Avatar then as an extended metaphor or a blueprint that shows us how to move that shows us the limitations of it, and the limitations of mind and body that are opposed to each other, at war with each other, like the Sky people and the Pandora people. You see, they're in conflict. Jake Scully then is like a Buddha who goes through this passage and comes out whole by marrying both body and mind when he gives up his Jake Sully personality and wakes up in the end, and you don't know who he is, because now he is both Sky people and Navi as whole, you see. So you end with the movie with Jake Sully just waking up, boom, and he's awake. He's a Buddha. He's the awakened one. Isn't that interesting? So I hope you go back and look at Avatar and look at it again from this perspective of a blueprint for awakening. And in order to follow that blueprint, you have to become Jake Sully. In other words, you're not looking at Jake Sully as an it. You have to look at the movie as Jake Sully is looking at it when he does the movie. In other words, the shift is that when you watch the movie, you are actually Jake Sully doing this passage. So you're doing it with Jake Sully as he does it, rather than you sitting here in your armchair looking at him do something, and you don't do anything. You see, you have to do it with him. You have to make the blueprint your blueprint. You have to see it from the inside. You have to see the melon from the inside of the melon feeling cool with the dew on its head, you see. So this is what I mean by metaphor, and the paradigm shift is from not looking at everything as a sky person, and not just looking at everything emotionally, but looking at everything from a totally different perspective or outlook, a paradigm shift, which has to just spontaneously happen. You can't do it by effort. You have to want to do it. So let's leave it there, and we'll pick up the trail of Jake Sully in the Avatar tomorrow for a few days. And I'll see you this evening at Martini time. And maybe I don't know where we'll go tonight, but anyway. I had my Irish whiskey yesterday, so I'll be back to Martini time this evening.